Make no attempt to reload your device. You are now entering the Hellhole.
We're alive, pal. Everything looking correct, everything looking appropriate. It's Easter, we're deep into the AM, and it's time. We've been doing this every month, and I started wondering this month, are there going to be any game trailers worth talking about? March delivered again. We've drifted into April. Let's get into this thing. So we've been doing this lately where I just kind of check out the trailers that are catching my interest. Like I said, it's deep into the AM. It's Easter Sunday, or at least it was. Now it's, what is Monday? Whatever Monday is. I'm tired. I just want to hang out, check out some trailers. We're kicking it off with one of the first standouts of the month, really, and one of the ones that, we knew it was coming. Akuma is back. He's in Street Fighter 6. He's one of the latest DLC characters, and to me, probably far and away the most interesting of the first wave of DLC coming to Street Fighter 6. Going to be really interested to see what comes beyond this. Characters like Ed, not really getting me that excited. There's rumors swirling always that maybe there'll be a second wave of 6 characters for Street Fighter 6 that will be established characters, more in the vein of favorites, although the mix is a little bit wobbly. There's a rumor that Bison might be in there, which to me is kind of like, I thought we were finally moving past that. We should continue to progress away from that. Of course, these rumors might not be true at all. There could be further context to them. Ed was like a substitute body cloned or created for Bison, so who knows what form Bison will take. We can even think of like Geese Howard in the SNK games, where it's sort of like Nightmare Geese or something. It could just be Nightmare Bison, some sort of spectral vision of Bison or something peculiar. Even thinking of like Spirit Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat Deception, was it? Yeah. So I don't know about Bison, but Rainbow Mika's in there, which again, in the mix, I like Rainbow Mika, and I've been checking out some, she's relevant to some stuff that I've been checking out. I'm not talking about it yet. But, she's in there with like Sakura. I'm trying to remember what some of the other ones that were rumored are. Maybe Elena from Street Fighter 3. The combination just feels a little bit weird. I guess Elena's good. We haven't really seen Elena in a while. That could be interesting, but Sakura and Rainbow Mika, very recent. Mika was in Street Fighter 5, so, she's a cool character. I like her, but it sort of feels like, what have you got that's fresh for me, Street Fighter 6? I gotta get back to Street Fighter 6 World Tour. I'm neglecting so many things. It's been hard to find time for them. I'm neglecting what's on the screen right now. So Akuma, what you see is what you get. This is really cool. Hotly anticipated character. Great cult favorite. Always nice to see him back. Is he going to be OP? Is he going to be banned from tournaments? Such as the Goki way, the Goki way. Goki. I really like this presentation. This is just, instantly gets me excited, gets me pumped. I love the martial arts vibes. that's what I want to see from these fighting games. So it's always really nice to see, and I love like it's big, it's myth making stuff. You know, Akuma is as powerful as he's ever been. He's uppercutting the heads off massive godly statues. You know, it's really cool. I'm interested to see, you know, what will there be any kind of story content or anything around Akuma? You know, what's the context here? Obviously, he's advancing in age as a lot of the characters are. It's really been an interesting chapter in Street Fighter to see the characters sort of maturing and moving forward and developing and, you know, advancing towards becoming the legends that, you know, we speak of. In the past, it would just be we'd be told about legends. Now we're living the progression in some ways. Hard to imagine, you know, do you ever really throw away your icons? I don't think you should. I think the lesson of Street Fighter 3 is that you certainly don't throw everything away. Street Fighter 6, you know, is part of a complicated correction process that came with like Street Fighter 4 went backwards, really gave us everything we were looking for, really restored the classics and restored Street Fighter. It was sort of dormant. It's amazing. It's amazing to think, like, you know, I guess it's 15 years ago now, but Street Fighter was essentially considered dormant or dead. You know, certainly the prospects of a sequel weren't likely, and then Street Fighter 4 has just made it a regular, and it's great. That's where it should be. I want to see Street Fighter regularly. I love it. It's been very good. But the timeline wise of like Street Fighter 4 goes backwards, Street Fighter 5 slots in, you know, you're getting it in there. Street Fighter 3 comes after that, I think. You know, after 5, it's 6 is after 3. It's a whole thing. Akuma's looking cool. He's looking big and grizzly. He's the silverback of the Shoto Warriors. It's just cool, man. I just like the vibe, and you're always, you know, between Tekken and Street Fighter, volcanoes are getting a bit of a workout for these big epic fights. They love that sort of dramatic dark lighting. You get a little bit of like the rim light going. Sort of, it's a dark environment, but there's a bit of light. This is cool. I imagine Akuma will play much the same as he usually does, but with some, you know, maybe with some new enhancements, some new big sort of theatrical moves. I'm not technically minded enough in terms of playing the games to really like speculate or get into that kind of stuff. I'm just digging the presentation. I'm digging the character. I wonder, like, are we getting to a point? It does feel a little bit like the mystique of Akuma or Goki is no longer there. Not to the same degree as it used to be. You know, obviously this isn't like Street Fighter 2 Turbo or whatever days, Hyper Fighter. I forget which one he comes into. Man, I'm tired. But I wonder, you know, like, are we getting to a point now where like maybe Akuma doesn't need to be as protected as he is. I almost feel like he exists for a long time existed in a bubble, even to that extent of like being banned from competition and stuff. It was very much like this bubble. It's all about keeping Akuma special. I wonder if that's kind of run its course, and if we should even be thinking about Akuma potentially as like a new final boss or something. I don't know. What is I mean, it's kind of, it feels like his destiny at is always going to sort of end. He will die fighting, essentially. I don't know, like, where does the story go for the character? That's what I'm interested in. It'll be interesting to see if Street Fighter 6, you know, delves into that. And I don't know if it impacts Ryu. I gotta get through World Tour and find out more about the Street Fighter 6 story and nail down some of those elements, because I'm a little bit behind. But, you know, this is cool. It's kind of a given. I don't know that there's much more to say about it, really. Not that I really said much anyway. This is cool, man. I mean, look at this. I just love the mood, the vibe. Very successful. I guess we might as well go from arguably the top fighting game to the next one. Because, hang on. Yeah, Tekken's not going to go quietly, obviously. Tekken 8 is still simmering away. Will Tekken 8 bring Waffle House into the King of the Iron Fist? I've been saying the King of the Waffle Iron Fist. I don't know what's going on there, you know. I guess somebody started some kind of like Twitter meme about having Waffle House in Tekken, and now Katsuhiro Arata is indulging it. It wouldn't. I don't know that it would be wildly out of place if they do a Waffle House arena. To be honest, it wouldn't be the strangest thing. I think like, what's the weirdest thing to find its way into Tekken? I guess Gon, the manga character, is probably the weirdest crossover. But what about like Snoop Dogg? I didn't feel great about Negan from Walking Dead being in the game, but I guess it is what it is to say absolutely nothing about it. Hey, Eddie Gordo's back. How about that? Let's talk about that. Again, kind of a sure bet, a known quantity, nothing too wildly surprising. He's got a different look. I imagine there will be a classic skin. Unfortunately, they'll probably be selling that separately. They've been doing like Tekken 3, Tekken 4 skins. I'm loving seeing some of those. I'm not buying them. I don't even have the game. I'm not going to spend countless dollars just to get like a costume or something. I wish all of this stuff was unlockable in the game, really, honestly. And I think back to like, there is a balance to be struck with a lot of this stuff, because essentially now, like, looking at the Street Fighter 6 DLC, a lot of this character is not necessarily hugely appealing in that first DLC list. Obviously Akuma is the big sort of A-list known quantity, and there becomes an issue of sort of like, now they're incentivized to drop your favorite characters out because you'll buy them later, sort of thing. And it's sort of, there's a tricky balance, and Tekken has such a great tradition of the unlockable characters and the big rosters. They haven't really, I don't feel like they've, it's not the game as service. I forget, was there a Tekken? They did try that, didn't they? Tekken sort of as a platform where you get like a half a dozen characters and then you go to buy characters, which in some ways it feels like the inevitable conclusion of DLC and this kind of thing, to release a free platform and then a la carte almost, like let people purchase individual characters. That almost feels like the inevitable conclusion of the technology, that the entire premise of sort of downloadable content. But at the same time, it's awful. That's not a good thing, and it's, I lament the unlockable characters, and I think back to like Tekken 3, Tekken 2. It was just such a thrill to unlock characters. Obviously, there's a bit of pushback from that for the competitive scene, and they want to have all the characters available, and there's various solutions to that. I don't know. I really miss it in Mortal Kombat. That's maybe where it's most felt. Even though, in terms of quantity, I think Tekken, a lot more unlockable characters in its history, but Mortal Kombat sort of traded on that sense of secrets. A lot of it turned out to be bullshit. Obviously, it was all like, we're coming up, it's April Fool's Day here. Mortal Kombat was really trading on those arcade whispers and kids just making bullshit up, basically. There's, if you do this, you get this. But Mortal Kombat did have, Smoke, Noob Saibot, Jade, Reptile in the first game. For a while there was a steady stream of legitimate secrets, and it does bum me out that the secrets in Mortal Kombat now are just sort of not very interesting. It's not something as substantial as a character usually. That's what I'd like to see them get back to. Not necessarily just, you don't have to stop doing DLC, but get a good secret character in there. I've said it before, I'll say it many more times again. Mortal Kombat 11, how they got away with that crypt reptile. This whole big show, you go near the Goro's memorial statue or whatever, and it's like the 95 movie with Reptile like jumping out, and there's like a little cut scene. It's like, oh, Reptile was hidden in plain sight, blah blah blah. And then there's the mini game where you can find Reptile around the crypt, which I'm sure some people still don't know. If you go, is it Mortal Kombat 11? I'm mixing up my games. Yeah, Mortal Kombat 11. I think you got like the Kenshi vision. Use the Kenshi vision, you can find Reptile hidden in a few places. You smack him, and if you find him in all the places, you get an unlockable thing. And you would think, in Mortal Kombat tradition, after this big, like show of Reptile dancing around in front of, he's not dancing, jumping out from the statue and all that, and they make a big deal of it, and you would think you go to the trouble of finding him invisible, lurking around the place. You smack him, you find him. You would think that you would unlock Reptile. But you unlock a green Scorpion skin. A skin for Scorpion, which is sort of green. And they got away with that. Very few people seem to complain about that. That is mind-boggling to me. That even... It should have been there from day one. But the fact that they didn't do it, even DLC to fix that and have Reptile be unlockable, it just blows my mind. But really, Mortal Kombat 11 was overall... You know, you live with a few of those things. I got complaints about Mortal Kombat 11 that I think are kind of criminal. But in terms of Mortal Kombat, one of the best games, in my opinion. Mortal Kombat 11, just as a package, whole lot to like in that one, even with the flaws. To me, the flaws, you know, they're outweighed by all the positives. So I love that. But that Reptile, man, should have been in there. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 1, aye. Nothing but dissatisfaction. Let's not talk about that, because there's no Mortal Kombat 1 trailers this month. So we don't have to really be thinking about it. Janet Cage came out. I don't care. Dismal. We're looking at Eddie Gordo. So what do we, you know, I'm interested in what kind of gameplay tweaks there might be. I don't have a good sense, like, when was the last time Eddie Gordo was playable? Because was he in? I don't think he was in Tekken 7. I could be mistaken. Oh, wow. I'm tired and I'm just forgetting everything, man. I'm curious about the gameplay, though. Obviously, it's sort of, you know, it's matured. The notorious legend of Eddie Gordo is that you're just mashing buttons and you're unbeatable. I don't even know if that was true for Tekken 3. I mean, I guess it was tricky. Depends on your skill level, really. I like to think that it was just a challenge. It was something to overcome. It'll be interesting to see how he plays in Tekken 8. Not out until tomorrow for early access. You can see the dates there. So 5th of April. So it's coming up real soon. Is Eddie Gordo maybe the most exciting? I would say, you know, if I'm picking my winners for this month's game trailers, this is probably it. Akuma's great, but Akuma's kind of a given. I take it for granted. It was a cool trailer. I mean, in terms of the trailer, the effort made for the presentation of Akuma was a lot cooler, but Eddie Gordo himself feels like a bit more of an exciting addition. Good to have in there. I don't know. I'd like a Tiger Jackson skin, although I do like the thought that Tiger Jackson is a separate character. And again, you know, I don't love the thought of like shelling out big bucks just to get all these classic skins. That's pretty cheesy, man. That's a little ugly. I don't know how I feel about this new design. I guess it's an attempt to modernize the character. I do notice they're getting a little busier with, like, there's little strips of cheater pattern, and it's even making me think of, I was studying sort of King's design at the moment, and King has gone from sort of like 3-color, sort of, you know, like predominantly blue and yellow or purple and yellow or something like that, and now you've got like the knee pads are different colors, and on one knee pad there's like a strip of color here, and there's a different strip of color on the other one. The boots are different, and he's got like half a dozen arm bands across him. He's got like a little strip of the cheetah pattern, but then he's got like yellow and blue and teal and all this stuff, and I'm seeing a little bit of that in this Gordo design. I don't hate it. It doesn't feel overly busy, but you know, it doesn't feel iconic. I think that's what's the imbalance is there, where it's sort of, I'm reluctant to say it matches real wardrobes. It's not realistic in that sense. I don't think the average person is generally covering themselves in quite so much busyness, although it certainly happens and it can happen. But it loses that iconic quality. And even maybe even the character model feels a little less vivid to me. It's really cool, you know, I think I've said it before. We've been checking out these Tekken trailers. We've been doing this for a few months now. So every now and then we check out these Tekken trailers. I get a little kick out of the characters using their native language. I assume that's Portuguese that he's speaking, Brazilian Portuguese. It's just really cool because that was always the dream. You playing these, because the great appeal of some of these games is like you get all these characters from around the world, and when they're all speaking English or something, it's sort of like, well, yeah, that's great and all, but what would it be like if they all spoke with their native tongues, their own languages, their own accents. We're getting it with Eddie. That's really cool. I wonder if we'll get Christy Montero at some stage, and I don't know. Yeah, I got nothing. I don't have much else really. I'm just Tekken is delivering, and it seems to be really good. This is an interesting little detail with Is that like a Brazilian thing? I don't know. The relationship between Brazil and Japan always intrigues me, but that's not really Eddie Gordo's thing, I guess. What's his master's name? I'm drawing a blank, man. It's like, what is it? It's 2:30 a.m. Who am I kidding? I'm just worn out, man. The guy. What do you want? Yeah, I don't know. Have they not done... I guess they haven't done the Capoeira Master. Bring him in. I was thinking, what's his name? Leroy. I thought Leroy was related to him. Doesn't matter, man. I don't know what I'm talking about. Eddie's looking good. I guess we'll keep rolling. It's awful late. This one I'm a little less enthusiastic about, but it's a big deal, and we might as well talk about it. Maybe I'll find something more substantial to say. It's Marvel Rivals. Let's just get away with all pretense. It's Marvel Rivals. Widely rumored, widely expected. It has arrived, and I kind of don't hate it. I don't hate it, but at the same time, I'm a little disappointed. This is obviously widely compared to other games. I think Chris Cornhole was saying it's straight up like Overwatch. I don't know to what extent. I'm not really across Overwatch. I like some of it. It's nice to see a bit of the color, and the characters are varied. But in terms of Marvel video games, I feel like, or comic book video games in general, I feel like I'm still waiting for a really good comic book game, and I know I'm fairly isolated in that. I think a lot of people are pretty easily satisfied. To me, I compare this to the was it EA or somebody who made the Avengers game? I compare it to the Avengers game that was sort of like game of service, and it's pretty notorious. And I compare it. I, even if you can't necessarily, it's not a one-for-one comparison of the games themselves, the mechanics and all that, but it's essentially like, it's the premise that they used to make, you would get Marvel games, and there was a palpable sense that they were trying to make a game based on the characters. I'm thinking, I played in the Hellhole. If you go to the archive on YouTube, you can see me playing like the Incredible Hulk on the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis. X-Men 2 Clone Wars, that's 16-bit era games. You got a palpable sense that they were trying to make a game based on the characters. There's a little bit of story. Obviously, story's not front and center in that era of games, but you get a sense of story through the progression of stages and whatever interstitials and things they're able to put together. But the way the characters play, some of the story is just it's the characters themselves, the way they play, the bosses and everything. And you had the characters in there; they were rendered in ways that felt faithful to the comics, and to a lesser extent, maybe cartoons. Obviously, people were very familiar with cartoons in the case of X-Men 2. Sure, but you've got characters in there who were not really regular. No, I guess they were in the cartoons. I'm thinking of like Psylocke. Although when the game came out, I don't know if Psylocke had been in the show yet. Maybe. Be pretty close. Time-wise, it'd be very close. But, those games felt palpably like they took the comics and they tried to build a game based on that. I even... my mind always seems... I don't know why. I always go to Wolverine's Revenge. I think that's X2 Wolverine's Revenge on the PS2, which is... It's an imperfect Wolverine game, but there's a lot I like about it, and it does feel like obviously they're cribbing from things like Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that. And it was probably a little bit early in that trend of like the, I guess detective vision or things like that, where Wolverine would use his super senses and you sort of get that detective vision style thing where, it was very early into that. We never got that Daredevil game, so we never got like the Daredevil radar sense vision where it really would have made sense. It was much more of like a Daredevil mechanic than a Wolverine mechanic, but it sort of worked. Worked. But that game had like great stages, designs, gameplay elements, a little bit more in the presentation than the gameplay mechanics, but it felt very much like, they've looked at Wolverine, they've tried to make a game faithful to the Wolverine comic sort of thing, or, certainly at that stage, there's a lot of like new X-Men era sort of influences in that one with some of the designs and stuff. There's some weirdness in there too, though. Things that aren't. It, like I said, it's imperfect, but still, I felt like that's a game where they were honoring the comics. They were drawing inspiration from the comics. This Marvel Rivals, the Avengers game, Marvel Snap to some degree even. It feels like now they take a format and they just slap the characters on. They slap the characters in there. This does not. I even feel like Midnight Suns, which is maybe closer to the kind of thing I'm looking for, at least on the Marvel side of things. Midnight Suns it's a format. They've shoved the characters into the format, and there's a lot of weird stuff in that one. And inevitably, I guess there's like business transactions, and they're trying to get over whatever is current. And there's a bit of that in this as well. A lot of characters that sort of like, don't really know. They're not really the classics and all that. I tend to, I want the classics. It's a tricky balance because I would acknowledge too, like, obviously you get people kicking up a stink about like when characters are replaced or racially recast sort of thing, like they're reskinned. There's a little bit of that here with the Submariner Namor. He looks a little bit like, essentially he's based on the movie version, which was sort of, they went Mesoamerican, Mexican sort of vibe, which is not really from the comics at all. It's a little bit weird, and admittedly, it's a little bit off-putting because it says to me they're not really interested in comics. They're sort of, I don't want movie tie-ins. Although one thing I would say, Marvel Rivals, not really a movie tie-in if you look at it. There's a little bit of that. They give Iron Man like that nasal voice that's like a dodgy attempt at Robert Downey Jr. But if you actually listen to Robert Downey Jr., he's not nasal like that. I see what they're doing, and there's a general similarity, but it's not Robert Downey Jr. And I don't really think Robert Downey Jr. should be considered the definitive Iron Man. As big as those movies were, as iconic as they were, as successful as they were, and particularly like looking at the first one, I really loved that it drew from the comics very well. It adapted the comics very well. Obviously, it's a different medium, and it's not a one-to-one translation. That's fine. You don't need that, but I want it to be representative and true to the source. Spider-Man's on the screen right now, and it's just irritating me there's no symbol on his back. Speaking of fidelity things, where is his back symbol? If I'm going to be staring at his back, make it good. That's a little bit of a disappointing thing, too, that we're just sort of staring at the backs of characters. It's a little bit dull. It's not the most exciting view. I mean, that's a silly criticism, though, because third-person view is going to be a factor in a lot of things. I guess we're bouncing around. This is what we do. We look at these trailers, we just bounce around and whatever comes to mind. Thinking of Spider-Man, I'm not a fan of those Spider-Man games, the Sony Spider-Man games, and to me they're a weird sort of, because of the web swinging mechanics, which is one of the more successful elements of those games. It kind of is what I'm looking for. It kind of is a Spider-Man game, but at the same time, when you play that game or those games, incredibly uninteresting, incredibly boring games. And so I don't feel that they're serving the comic material. And like that first PS4 one is just like, it's non-stop boring henchman shit I don't care about. And then they're building up the tease of like Black Cat, and you jump through these hoops teasing Black Cat, and then she's not even in the game, and it's like that every time. They tease something, not in the game. They set it up, not in the game. Sequel did that to some extent too. The recent Spider-Man 2, like, Doctor Strange is kind of like, nah, not home, not in the game. Black Cat, she's leaving the game. All that crap. I'm not a Miles Morales guy. It's not really what I'm looking for in a Spider-Man game, so that sort of left me cold. The Venom stuff was really... I'm talking about wanting things that are faithful to the comics. I wasn't happy with Venom. Looking at this lineup in this game, kind of cool. It's movie influenced, which I'm not excited about. I don't really enjoy the movies that much. I don't enjoy the movies as a film fan or as a comic book fan. They're kind of a little bit in the middle. You've heard all the complaints. We're not getting into that really right now. But in terms of like the Guardians of the Galaxy, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, not characters that I'm hugely excited to see in this kind of combination with like Loki and stuff. It's fine. I think it works. It's interesting enough. Iron Man's cool. Looks like they're sort of going with a more modern Iron Man, which is fine. Doctor Strange is really cool to see in there. I'm digging Black Panther. I don't know who Luna Snow is. Luna Snow is like I feel like I've maybe seen her in Marvel Snap, and I'm not sure if they invented some characters for China or something, and then they put them in like Marvel Snap, and I'm an old school comics guy. I'm literally sitting here with like comics all over the shop. I'm like, who the hell are these characters? And I look it up, and it's like they've been in one thing that was made for China or something, and then they put them in the Marvel Snap game because that goes to Asia. Is it China? Maybe it's Asia in general. I don't know. And they like created like Swordmaster, which is sort of like I don't know what it is. It's sort of like, it's not quite a wuxia character, but it's something like that. I don't know. In any event, there's whoever that is, Luna Snow. I actually don't mind this Hulk. It's a little bit Amadeus Cho, I guess, or just like a modern take on the Hulk. Looks kind of cool. But the game itself, I don't really expect that I'll play it. I'm not hugely interested in it. I'll be interested to see like what are some of the other characters they add. What are some of the skins they add to get Spider-Man with his red symbol on his back where he got it on that blue area that is too much blue. It's too much blue. It's like when you got Superman running around in a blue bodysuit. It looks like naked blue man group. For God's sake, put some pants on! Superman is not blue. You got to break it up. You need a little bit of red. Those trunks, they make a world of difference. I don't care what you're saying about underwear on the outside. It's been 100 years, man. You know what a superhero looks like. They got a trunks design. Deal with it, man. You ever watch professional wrestling? You got dudes running around in the trunks. You ever look at like a race car driver? They might not have trunks on their suits, but it's sort of the same idea. I'm just generally saying, superhero uniforms, they don't need to look like they're off the rack. You don't need to be getting your superhero uniform, like jacking them slacks from Hot Topic or something. It's not what it's about. It's colorful, it's exciting, it's beyond this world. It's bigger and better than our world. It's exciting, it's iconic designs, So get me a Spider-Man symbol on his back. It doesn't matter. I don't give a damn about this game, really. I guess I'll keep checking it out, seeing if anything develops. It's cool that Submariner's in there because he's like, Submariner was one of my favorite comics characters, and he was very rarely in the games. I'm thinking of like, what games is he actually in? I think he shows up in like the Fantastic Four scrolling beat 'em up on PlayStation. He was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance as he's a character you encounter, and I think it was only in certain versions you could play as a Submariner. You could unlock him or something. Has he been in much else? I don't know. He's in this. That's pretty cool. I wish it was more the comic book version. I don't know. It'd be great if they had like at least comic book skins in there, so you can sort of choose your own adventure. If you're one of the unfortunate sorts who really only knows these characters from movies, one of the lightweight punks, then you can have those, but have some comic skins for the cool dudes, the real dudes. Loki, I don't know. Is Thor in there? Have they said that Thor's in the game? Magic is in the game. Magic's kind of like just enjoying a push. Fair enough. She was big in Midnight Suns, and I guess has been big in the comics. Magic was never really, I wasn't really a New Mutants guy growing up. And I never, even as a kid, I didn't really like kid heroes. So, whatever. But I'd like to see. I'm really looking for like give me a Marvel superhero game with some characters I like, based on some classic comics. Give me iconic looks. I mean, look at X-Men 97 is going gangbusters. The comics are revving up. They're getting back to like a classic, iconic sort of design. I don't need 90s nostalgia necessarily, but give me the iconic stuff. You know, the movies really have a lot to answer for, and if the worm is turning, more's the better. There was a dilution throughout the 2000s, this weird like internet fueled panic that things are too hard to understand, that everyone's a moron, can't cope with somebody wearing a bodysuit or something. Everybody's got to buy like a leather jacket and some slacks. You know, like, give me a break, man. Everything, you got to revert. You mess around with it maybe a little bit. Hopefully you're making good decisions. More often than not, it feels like they're not. Inevitably, it's got to go back to the iconic stuff. Don't waste time. Don't dawdle. Get us back there. Refine. Get into the good stuff. Stop wasting our time with this garbage. These are comic grievances as well. I'm thinking of like, because of the trend of like, kill a character off for a few years, pretend it's real, replace the character with somebody else, swapping powers. It's been a shit show for so long. Get back to the iconic stuff. Give us the good stuff. Seems like they're kind of doing that with X-Men 97 to some degree. There's a little bit of friction for me in terms of I don't want to constantly be doing the nostalgia thing. I don't want to arbitrarily go back to old things. But I do want characters to be iconic, to be universal, to be, you know, the same way like, you know, there were changes, but essentially, you know, my father, you know, if he read comics when he was a kid and then I was getting comics and he can recognize things, I want to recognize things, you know, it's a shared universe. And then in that spirit of like, you know, talking about, they really gloss over these characters quickly, and I feel like Namor is one of the ones that you barely can even see him in that little that little roll call thing. You know, making that character sort of Mexican whatever, it was a little bit weird. It's always weird when they recast characters for race. Often it just seems very insincere to me. Insincere, insulting, I think, to everyone. Obviously, some people are down with it. Some people have kind of convinced themselves it's a good thing. To me, you know, you're looking at the Marvel Universe, okay, and there's a great there's a sense of and/or understanding of the shared universe, and that was not there at the beginning. It was built. These characters were accrued. The Hulk is a '60s character. You know, Captain America is a '40s character. Submariner, he's a 1930s character. Late 30s into the 40s. Let's not quibble semantics. You know, who else is in there? I guess Black Panther. There's a lot of 60s characters, obviously, for the Marvel age. But my point being that the Marvel universe was constructed with pieces, additions, build. So, okay, you're sitting down, you're saying, there's not enough ethnic diversity here. That's a little strange. They live on planet Earth. They live in New York City. New York City, incredibly ethnically diverse. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, you've identified a problem. That's a real problem. Like, let's not delude ourselves. It's strange that everybody would be Caucasian. That doesn't make sense. I've always thought it's strange that everybody's American as well. Let's not worry about it. My attitude is that, okay, you've identified a gap in the market, create a new character. That's how we get so many great characters. You know, if you don't do that, you don't get the Marvel Universe. You don't get Wolverine in the 70s. You don't get Luke Cage in the 70s. You know, you don't get Shang-Chi in the 70s. Like, the 70s is a good reference point, apparently. There's plenty in the 80s and 90s, you know. Thinking of even like, you know, you're always, it's that tricky balance. Even like War Machine, you know, stuff like that came about. I don't want to get weird about it, you know, that's the thing. But I'm just saying it'd be cool if we were getting new characters. But again, I sort of started to touch on that. It is a tricky balance because you want to acknowledge that problem and potentially address it. But at the same time, I look at a game like this and I'm saying, well, who is Luna Snow? I don't care about these new characters. What is this? You got to make room for the new characters. You got to, you know, you can't say, you can't, you know what I mean? It's got to be fair. You got to play fair. Now we're getting into some sort of like issue that is not really that pertinent to the game. The roster is what the roster is here. You know, there's nothing I wouldn't say there's too much inorganic. Lunar snow is an unusual choice. I don't know. I just, do I want to get into this? Do I want to get into this? I don't feel that strongly about it. Hopefully the comics can pick up the slack to create better stuff to then inspire these cross media properties. I guess that's what I would say. I'm gonna move on. This is basically the last one, and this is Shinkansen Zero, which is like the bullet train in Japan, I guess. And this is a Chiller's Art game. I played a couple of them now. If you head over to the archive, you can see me sort of fumbling my way through a couple of them. This is the latest one, and when it comes to Chiller's Art, I'm always kind of interested. I like their style. I guess it's like a couple of dudes in Japan just cranking out games. They're nice and cheap. They're usually a good atmospheric time. They vary in quality. I've probably played a couple of the more middling ones, not necessarily the best ones, but I'm interested in Shinkansen Zero. I gather it's sort of like, what do we call this genre of sort of horror game where it's repeating corridors kind of thing? I guess it's a PT-like, until we have a better name. PT, the playable teaser for Silent Hills, made by Kojima before his unceremonious departure from Konami. The PT sort of playable teaser really, if it didn't invent it, it popularized and really brought to the fore this idea of like this looping scenario where you're in a hole and it's looping. I recently played Night Shift. You can find that in the archive. No, not Night Shift. What was it called? Shoot, I cannot think tonight. I can't process anything. What's the one I played? Exit 8. I played Exit 8. Exit 8, you're in like a subway station, looping, and it combines that sort of PT-like genre of the looping scenario, situation, location with the anomaly genre. You know, spot the difference kind of anomaly genre that's in like Observation Duty and things like that. I guess Five Nights at Freddy's as well. I guess is that a little bit of that where are you trying to spot things in that? I don't really know Five Nights at Freddy's. This feels like a compliment to Exit 8. I mean, the Exit 8, you're in a subway station. Now you're literally on a train in this one. I don't know. It looks kind of interesting. Spooky train. It's a little bit cheesy for to follow up. Particularly the Exit 8 was a big thing. There's talk of an Exit 8 sequel. Obviously, like low budget, small, independently made game that when it becomes a sensation, almost a viral sensation, then it makes a ton of money. I don't know if the Chiller's Art guys are trying to jump on that. I think they're probably doing all right already with their own thing. They've been able to sort of propagate that. I don't know. Why not do their take on it? It's it does feel like, I mean, because they've got the numbered sort of train cars. It does feel very directly referencing Exit 8. It's a little cheesy. I'm not the biggest fan of an Also Ran, but it seems like they're doing something with it, and they're doing their own take. And I did see a little bit, so I guess it came out early in the week, maybe just last week, end of last week, beginning of this week. So I did see a little bit of gameplay footage, and it does seem like there's some cool stuff in there, and it's got... in Observation Duty, I'm not so into that where it's like just changing a picture on the wall, or moving a cup. It's like this super subtle stuff, which is great in terms of gameplay mechanics, but in terms of being interested, it just doesn't really register me. I like the weirdo bits, like where you switch your camera and there's like a guy staring right at the camera. I like those weird... That's what gets me interested in those things. I've seen like that Markiplier guy playing a bit of Observation Duty. I'm interested in like, the really weird stuff, the weird like anomalous, monstery, ghosty things. And it seems like maybe Shinkansen Zero is doing a bit of that. The Exit 8 held back. You had like the little PT style spook peeking through the door, and you had Gerald the the businessman, he would show up taller than usual and stuff like that. Oh, yeah, the shiny stuff. I might just wholesale spoiling Exit 8. If you want to see Exit 8, go watch that in the archive. Go to YouTube, search for the Hellhole Exit 8. You can find out all about that game if you don't know about it. Shikansen Zero, I might end up playing this. I don't know. These games are always nice and cheap, and they're always a bit of fun. What were the Chillers Art games that I played? I don't even freaking remember the name. The Kidnap was the new one. Inunaki Tunnel, that's the one that I played. I went back and got the different endings as well, which is usually fun. I would presume this game will have maybe a couple of endings, which would be kind of nice. Yeah, it looks cool. I'll probably check it out sometime. Maybe I'll stream it. I'm not sure. That's basically it for March, though. I keep wondering, we had the Street Fighter trailer somewhere early in the month, and I was thinking, okay, that's cool. Will there be more? I keep wondering, are we going to be able to do this? We've been checking in every month now for a while now. There is a looking at trailers tab over in the YouTube archive. If you're curious, you can go check that out. Talking Trailers is the playlist. We've been doing this now for quite a few months, and I just keep wondering, is there going to be enough that engages me? Because I'm not a typical gamer necessarily. I'm not looking at the Fortnite trailer. That stuff's not exciting me. I'm pulling out the things that genuinely interest me, or at least that overlap with my interests. Marvel Rivals, not a game I'm hugely excited about, but I have some interest in the area, and there's a response to that game at the very least. I'm sure we could have done more articulate things, but at 3 a.m., that's about as good as you're going to get from me. It's the fighting games that are carrying us, so they're going to keep going with their DLC trailers for a little while. Maybe Mortal Kombat will get something going. I would assume we'll be hearing more about the next wave of Mortal Kombat 1 DLC sometime soon, because that's kind of, the combat pack is starting to reach its conclusion. We essentially know there's going to be a story DLC. The game really leads you that way. Big challenges ahead for Mortal Kombat 1. They really got to pull something out to make that appealing in the slightest, and I got huge doubts. But on that same note, I am back working on some fan fiction for Mortal Kombat 1. We cooked up the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer timeline. It's like a alternate version, a different timeline, a new story that I'm making up myself, just laying it out. I'm not doing full CG animation or anything. We're just laying out the story. And it was going swell, and then I had a whole heap of issues with, essentially the way editing programs work. You got to log into them, and my email server was down for a couple of months, so I got completely derailed. It's been tough to get back to it, but I am getting back to it now. I'm working on Chapter 11. Hopefully we'll be able to, get those last 5 chapters done nice and easy. It's a longer chapter, but I'm about 2-something minutes in, and I've just been trying to put it together, trying to make it interesting, trying to get back in the mindset, and get back in touch with the story. I would love it if you're checking out the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer timeline chapters, or if you haven't and you go check them out. What do you think about the chapter story? If you want to leave a comment, and just make a remark about the story, the characters, how they're being introduced, how it compares to the real Mortal Kombat 1. My goal was to set out and make a better story than Mortal Kombat 1 did. I don't know if I'm quite there. I think I got some good stuff. I mean, some of that is still coming. Some of it is waiting. Maybe you want to check out some of the chapters that are out there now. You can maybe try to guess. I think the signs are there. You can certainly suss out where the story's going. Hopefully it's not too obvious, because it's nice to have a little bit of surprise. But I think the signs are there. The clues are there where the story's going. But predominantly it's built around, do we need to get into this in a big way? But essentially, yeah, stuff's coming. I would love to maybe hear some opinions about the story, just to give me a little bit of fuel, a little bit of encouragement for what I'm doing. Just gets the juices flowing, I guess. Haven't had a lot of. There's been a good response. I think the trailer has hit 1,000 views, which is kind of cool. And the trailer sort of functions as an introduction to the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer timeline storyline, sets it up, tells you a little bit about sort of where things are going. The idea is it starts from the same point that Liu Kang has ascended to the Keeper of Time, and he's got the Fire God powers, but I attempted to do something that I feel the real Mortal Kombat 1 didn't do, and that was to really firmly establish some very clear and logical ways that Liu Kang would intervene in rebooting the timeline and follow through and follow through. So like how do those changes affect what's the flow on? I felt like Mortal Kombat 1 didn't really do that. There wasn't a clear, really intuitive, logical sense of X change and now these things have changed as a consequence of it. Didn't do that. And I felt like some of it was a bit wishy-washy, a bit arbitrary, some of it just a little too vague. So, I cooked up my own story. We're watching the Tekken ad trailer right now on your screen. Hopefully the audio has been all right tonight. Sometimes it's too loud, sometimes it's too quiet. I don't know, man. I don't think I have anything too brilliant to say. I'll be back sometime soon. It's been really tough to get back and do stuff, but I'm working on things. Would love to get the trading card art going. Maybe just looking at stuff, hanging out, chatting. That's what the Hellhole is all about. It's kind of like a pop culture hangout. I got things developing with the trading card arc that sort of I put it to the side, but maybe we'll do a little stopgap or something. This has been fun. Some good trailers. Hopefully there'll be good trailers in April. Hopefully everyone's having a good Easter. You're all feeling good. You're having a nice time. Why don't you hit the like, the subscribe, the ring the bell, do all that stuff. I'm getting tired and grizzly. I got to get out of here, but it'll be great to have you and your company. And I don't know, we'll find some good stuff to do. Am I going to beat Mega Man? I don't know, man. It's kicking my ass. We'll work it out. We've got other stuff going on. We got to get comics. We got to get comics proper on the chat. I don't want to just be belly aching about whatever's going on in games. We got to get into the comics. Maybe cartoons too. I like cartoons. Until then, adios amigos. Happy Easter or whatever you're doing. Just happy Sunday, Monday, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Take it easy.